Hello.
That was a loud hello.
It's so everyone wakes up so they can hear me. This is very important that we're talking about today. So I need everyone's eyes wide open, your brains tuned into my voice. Hello.
Your eyes don't have to be open. This is an audio format, but if you want to, just to please Andre, he'll appreciate it.
I daydream better when my eyes are just like wide open. I'm just staring into the nothingness.
Okay.
So like if I'm listening to something, yeah, I don't know. I know a lot of people like to close their eyes to picture what's going on. I do it with my eyes open. It's better for me. Works better. So
I guess now that you mention it, I do really like to stare off at people's faces in public and make them uncomfortable. But it's not that I'm thinking about them. It's just that my eyes want to rest somewhere, and it's normally at someone's face.
you have resting creep face.
Yes.
Interesting. I love looking at people's faces. I don't do it intentionally to be creepy or creep them out because I find that amusing, like you. I do it because I love looking at faces.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, I just sometimes I'll be like, wow, that person is so beautiful, or sometimes I'll be like, that person's so ugly. And I just have to analyze their face, and then I'm like, oh, it's the mirror.
Oh my god.
Anyway.
I was not expecting that.
Hi, everyone. I'm the queen of plot twists. Hi, everyone. Episode 24 of Scary Talk. Can you believe it? Yes, I can believe it.
If we reach episode 52, I won't be able to believe it because that would mean that we've done this for a year.
I know. Wow.
Like, nonstop.
No misses, too. Like, we haven't skipped a week because of holiday. Granted, the big holidays haven't come yet. Hopefully, those won't, like, throttle us. But, you know, if we make it through like Thanksgiving and Christmas without skipping weeks, that's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a good relationship with holidays, so you can count on me.
Perfect. Okay, I'll schedule you right now. So, yeah, but I'm proud of us regardless so far. I mean, 24, really good. Hi everyone. Today we're talking about cults.
Raise your hand if you're in one.
Shannon, what do you love about cults? No, what do you know about cults?
Oh, Andre, I know so much about cults. I am obsessed with cults. I am in a cult. Just kidding, I'm not.
I mean, honestly, living in Redding, California, it would not surprise me. Some people are weird. Some people are weird.
Oh yeah, they are.
We know.
We're not going to bring it up though, but yeah. What do I know about cults? I guess I don't know. I guess let's just say
is smoking meth a cult? Because
it could be, like, no, but I guess the best way to organize this is that a cult is different from a church. And
correct.
I say that sparingly because my ass is a little bit offensive when it comes to religion. Mm-hmm. But the differences are only demarked by, like, how much money are you paying to be involved in this? Because churches, they can't force you to pay money or donate to the church. It's like, in the Bible, it's like, oh, you should, like, donate 10% or whatever, but that's not, like, enforced.
It's actually right there on Paul 13:5. It says you have to donate 10% of your income. Use link church 10% off your donation.
We love a woman of God. So yeah, money would be one difference. And then I guess when I'm talking about any other differences, that's when the line gets really blurry because it's like, well, I mean,
yeah,
is there a difference? You know what I mean? And that's just something I guess we can talk about. But
yeah,
for the most part, it's a bunch of people doing stupid crap organized.
I don't think it's an inherently offensive analogy. Like, there are a lot of parallels. I mean, you know, again, besides the money thing, like the concept of having a lot of people just congregating, and the reason they connected is because of this belief that is kind of wild. Like, like I mean, I don't see a big difference. Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I mean, you can have a cult that doesn't do harm and wouldn't necessarily fit the needs of a podcast like Scary Talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can have a cult that's just about, like, holding hands and growing vegetables.
But see, the thing is, I don't think you can have a cult that is like that because, like, when you start calling that community cult comes with a negative connotation of a cult. Like, historically, they're creepy, they're bad, they're evil, whatever. And so I think there are weird strange communities that are like outsiders that live in their little pockets of the world and that do not cause harm, that are basically a cult but not evil. But people don't call those cults, do they? Like,
yeah, but even in a real cult, they don't call themselves a cult, you know?
yeah, but like,
Because they don't want to be.
but like, let's get real though. Like, we know when a cult. I mean, I don't know. I feel like, yeah, you're right, but what I'm saying is what they say don't count because they're brainwashed. So of course they're not gonna call themselves a cult.
Yeah.
But if we on the outside see that there's like people being killed and shit, like, come on. Anyway, cults. So we're talking about today. Use code cult to get 10% off your next cult. So I'll start. Okay, here. Okay, Shannon, I have to preface this by saying my cases are a little gruesome. They're kind of fucked.
Okay.
And here's the thing. I don't know why I'm laughing. I think it's just because I'm nervous. I researched a good amount to find a cult that wasn't already in the zeitgeist, like very popular, so I could bring something fresh to this episode. But two, like within that, I was also looking for something that wasn't so gruesome. Literally, there was nothing. All these cults fucking suck and they're fucking awful. So yeah. I just picked the two that caught my eye the most, or that I thought were the least, whatever. Interesting regardless. But anyway, here we are. So I'm going to talk today about actually two cults because I think time will permit. One is a UFO cult that murdered 19 boys because they thought they were evil.
Oh.
So in 1989, hi everyone. In 1989, the Amazonian town of Altamira received a sudden increase of reports of missing children. Not having clear clues about the disappearances, the authorities couldn't do anything about it. By 1993, the reports rose to 19 missing children from 8 to 13 years old with no trace or a clue to find them. So I'm lifting those two first sentences straight from the article. It's an article by Maria Isabel Carrasco on culturacollectiva.com because I thought they were really suspenseful and they really set the mood. Now, onto my actual notes. So, Brazil, 1989, there's a bunch of boys missing. There are no traces that allow police to find them. What happens? At one point, the bodies of 5 children are found with signs of torture and castration. So, of these 19 missing children that, again, are from 8 to 13, at one point, 5 of the 19 bodies are found. It is determined that the people who are doing this must have medical knowledge, basically, because of the castrations that are performed on these bodies. They look to be done anatomically accurate. There's no other way to say this. Kind of gruesome. It is what it is. So that's what the police have so far, but they don't really have any other leads, and that's the problem. That they can't really connect this to anything else. Now, what happens? A lot of the bodies that they found were bodies of homeless kids, but the rest of the kids that were missing, so the other 14 that still hadn't been found, whether they were alive or dead at the point, the police didn't know. Those were actually children that were reported missing by their families, so they weren't homeless or orphaned. And the police had a hard time with this because, are these two different separate pockets of kids connected? Because one pocket is homeless, one pocket isn't, so confusion. So all the efforts were futile until one day this kid comes to the police and explains how he escaped from his captors. Now, who were his captors? Where? The captors were a cult called the captors were the Superior Universal Alignment UFO cult, which believed that the world was coming to an end and only
sorry, can you repeat that? Yeah. I need to dwell on that.
The Superior Universal Alignment UFO cult. That was their official name, and they believed that the world was coming to an end and only those who followed their precepts could be saved. Now, back to this kid, right? So he says, this fucking cult captured me. They were fucking awful to me. I am castrated. because they fucking suck. I'm like,
no,
hey,
wait, he survived the castration?
yeah. There's actually another version stating that it was 2 boys that managed to escape after being castrated, not just one, but this isn't
Oh
clear.
my
But
god.
regardless, however many boys it was, they were castrated once they found the police. So,
How do you
um,
survive that much blood loss?
I mean, that's the thing, right? They thought that this was connected to a medical group because they were doing it correctly. I mean, castration isn't legal anymore, but like when it was a legitimate medical procedure, and like you were supposed to survive it. So I guess like that.
Yeah.
But basically, this kid, they did that to him. He found the police. He had not bled to death. He was fine. He recounted his story, and the police were shocked. They heard the kid as to who he was saying had done all of this, and they were really shocked that the people he was naming were like elites of Brazil, like very important people and politicians and whatnot. The people who belonged to this cult. So this little kid, his name was Wanderlei Pinheiro, and he described um, some awful shit. He said that he suffered torture and sexual abuse alongside the castration and also mutilation while he was in the cult. He also explained that there were other children that had been stabbed to death and that their organs were extracted to be sold into the black market. There are also unofficial versions of this story that state that their captors even ate the children's organs, but this is not confirmed. However, I would not be surprised. I don't know if you agree. Brazilian society eventually caught wind of this because the story went public, and they were also shocked that the people that this little kid had like name drop were like wealthy business people. One of them was actually a police officer, and also the leader of the religious cult that I mentioned, and the leader's name was Valentina de Andrade. So people were shocked because like people had awareness that this cult existed. They just didn't know that they were doing this to people. And so they were like, what? Like Valentina's cult, Superior Universal Alignment UFO cult is castrating kids? The fuck?
How surprising, right?
Yeah,
You would never
so
suspect them.
right. So there's that. Now, okay, again, to restate the cult's beliefs, they believed that the world was coming to an end and only the people who followed the cult's beliefs would be saved. They stated that they had been contacted by extraterrestrial beings. Specifically, Valentina said that she had been contacted by ETs and that they warned her about the inevitable doom that was coming. However, if she agreed to spread their word, they would send down a spaceship to get her and all of her followers. In 1981, 8 years before the police reports were made public and before like this kid came forward, when the cult was still relatively new back in 1981, Valentina de Andrada, the cult leader, started preaching about all these new religious precepts, which assured that God didn't exist and that Jesus was actually an alien messiah who had arrived to earth to teach us about enlightenment and love. She was also convinced that male children born after the year 1981 were embodying evil and they had to be killed as a sacrifice to these beings who would save them.
Oh my god.
Now, the latter of these two sets of beliefs was obviously a more private one. Otherwise, his cult would have been shut the fuck down. But anyway, and I guess she succeeded because again, she was killing kids from 1991 to 1989 for those 8 years
Yeah.
until the kid came forward, and like I guess this shit got shut down. So yeah, they believe kids were evil, and they started killing them. Again, 19 missing children by 1989. 5 of them found dead. Most definitely connected to this cult. In the end, authorities captured 4 of the identified captors within the cult, but the leader, Andrade, she managed to flee the country. After a couple of years, though, she was arrested, and all of the people, all 5, so the 4 original and now including her, were charged with the murders of 5 children. However, she managed to kind of escape again in the sense that she wasn't persecuted for these crimes because she had a very convincing alibi that showed that she wasn't present when the murders took place. So she was exonerated, and now she is, according to this article, quote unquote, happily guiding her increasing flock of followers who simply ignore these crimes because, yes, superior alignment, whatever the fuck, is still going. So,
No.
yeah. Come to Brazil. Yeah, she was never in prison because other people made the dirty work. Now, this was super duper interesting to me because this shit did not work with Charles Manson. And I wonder if the Brazilian justice system is different. Like, I mean, me and my very technical brain, years ago, I did used to think like, well, Charles Manson didn't actually touch anyone. Why did he go to jail? But now, years later, I understand. I understand. If you have a very charismatic leader, that is the key for imposing this kind of shit in people's minds, and then that makes them go crazy because they're susceptible or whatever, or weak, whatever. Even if they're not, even if you're just very good at convincing people to do shit, and then they do it for you, I understand how you then should be made responsible for that.
Yeah.
And so I see what Charles Manson went to prison, while I mean, the people who actually killed for him also did, but like way lesser sentences. I just bring this up because I always found this really interesting, because for a long time I legitimately did not understand why he was in prison. But yeah, anyway. But I guess Brazil, things like 17-year-old me, because they were like, nope, she didn't do it, she wasn't there, so she's free. Very smart of her.
Yeah, that's weird.
To how other people do her dirty work. I think, yeah, cult leaders know that. Like, as long as you don't lay a finger on anyone, but you have everyone else do it, then you can be exonerated if you're lucky, and that sucks. So that's my first case. Thoughts?
Well, sounds like a gang or like the mob, you know, like they never lay a hand. But I guess I just have the same thought that I have with every single cult case, which is like, if you're doing this and you're following those beliefs that are more or less totally stupid, like it's because you're weak. And I know like that's not fair to say because you don't know what someone's going through, you know, and why they chose to join that. But when it becomes like, I'm gonna kill a child, like that's, you should know better,
right?
You know?
Like, you'd think that your like fail safe like instinct would like kick in to be like, no, like I shouldn't do that. I don't know, like don't we all have something like that? Like, I don't know.
I certainly hope so.
But I mean, again, I understand, and I also don't want to be like, oh, like whoever does it is weak, because I guess I don't want the cult community to come for us. I'm shaking, but
they are gonna come for us, and we're gonna join. Just kidding.
But
Not
yeah,
that
but
one,
I also don't have like a lot of empathy for those kind of people, especially the ones that not only join but also end up doing a lot of crazy shit for their cult. Because I agree with you. I think like, the fuck, like, do you just never wake up? Like, hello.
Nope.
I don't know. So,
and that's kind of why, like, that's why I don't really like take it that much. Like, I can't really have that much sympathy because like you're choosing this, you know, like after a certain point, I know like you feel like you can't escape or whatever, but
you,
I mean,
unless they're literally gonna kill you, like you can escape. Even crazy shit that I've like read and heard about, like Scientology, where they literally like alienate you from your family and do all kinds of shit. Like, I don't think they're actually gonna like kill you if you fucking leave. So, and I think a lot of these also won't do that.
I think with Scientology, that's a little bit up for discussion though, because some people have gone missing.
Dang. Okay. You'll decide if you want to cut this out. Tom Cruise don't come for me. So.
Hi,
Tom. Katie's good. She's fine. Hello, Katie Holmes. Anyway. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, if you get approached by someone in a cult and they ask you to join, and you're going through, for example, like a time of grief or something terrible in your life just happened, you're much more susceptible and vulnerable, and they can like pull you in. However, like once you get over that, if you're still in there and they're not gonna kill you if you leave, and they're asking you to do terrible things, and you're still like willingly there because I just, again, I can put myself in that situation. That hasn't happened to me, but get out. Like, just fucking get out. Like, it can't be worse than whatever they're asking you to do. So just get out.
If you're listening to this and you're in a cult or you think you know someone in a cult, get out.
Okay. Secondly, I'm gonna okay, Shannon, this is fucking fucked. Okay, I'm gonna talk about the Anthill Kids now. So,
I don't know what this is.
Yeah, both of the cults that I picked, I try to make them obscure so people wouldn't have heard of them before because I think that's more interesting. But man, oh man, I understand why they're obscure. I don't think the mainstream media wants to highlight these because they are just like, they're interesting, sure, but more than anything, they're just super messed up. And for example, like, I mean, not that the popular ones aren't messed up, like Jonestown or Heaven's Gate, but they're much more sensational. Like, the personalities that led them are like, you know, the Heaven's Gate was this guy who thought he was gonna get like sucked into the like sky by aliens, or Jonestown, like the guy was like a fucking personality. And so it was very enthralling to talk about it. These cults, they don't have those kinds of leaders. They're just really awful shit happens. So I understand why they're more obscure. I think that's my theory. Anyway, so the Anthill Kids. There was this guy called Rock Theriault, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Don't give a fuck. So he ran a small doomsday cult in Ontario, Canada between 1977 and 1989, and he had absolute control over a dozen adults and 26 children, most of whom he had fathered himself with his 9 wives. So
no, we are signing off right now.
Yeah, so before getting kicked out of the Seventh-day Adventists, so mind you, this is the precursor for whatever the fuck he decided to create, Theriault had amassed a following by organizing seminars about detoxing for people who were trying to quit alcohol and cigarettes. He had convinced a lot of these people that he had met through these seminars to quit their day jobs, and live their families to live with him in the forest. And
honestly sounds great. Sign me up.
Yeah, that's how the cult started, and he dubbed his followers as the Anthill Kids because of how hard he demanded they work. I don't know why the fuck he would join if the name of the cult is the Anthill Kids, because they're gonna make you work like a fucking worker ant. But anyway,
never mind. That doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah, like, I'll keep my day job. It's okay. And the article says, and when I say demand, I mean he forced them to break their own legs with sledgehammers if they refused to work.
No, it's like Misery.
I couldn't have said it better. This is fucked. So let's. I'm just laughing because it's just so like extraordinary. Like, I just can't believe that this shit exists. Anyway, so Anthill Kids. Though this guy failed to predict the world ending in 1979, because he said it was going to end in 1979, he did successfully grow the cult. He became a prominent figure in the community before people realized the terrible shit he was doing. But yeah, he was a sadist. He demanded absolute loyalty from his followers. He punished naysayers and doubters. He did shit like nail children to trees. He made his followers eat their own shit. And when he was angry, he stripped them down and bat them, plucked their hairs out one by one, and many other forms of abuse.
Oh my gosh.
That was when he was angry. Like, he wasn't angry when he was nailing children to trees. What the fuck?
Oh dear.
So fucked. Anyway. He also refused to take anyone to the doctor, so when anyone needed any kind of surgical intervention, he would just do it himself without anesthetic at first.
No.
Which at one point resulted in one woman dying because he accidentally pulled out her intestines, because this guy obviously wasn't fucking medically trained. Honestly, even if he was, maybe he was such a fucking asshole, he just did it on purpose. Whatever. He also killed a child during a failed circumcision. So he was like an amateur doctor that just sucked ass, basically, and also was a sadist. And one more kid died after being left outside during a blizzard as punishment. Thoughts so far?
Some of these were his kids, right? Like,
wait a minute. Let me read this. Yes, 26 kids, most of whom he had fathered himself. I mean, the chances are at least one of these kids was one of his kids.
Yeah, he gives zero fucks. This sounds like a horror movie.
Yeah, it's literally a horror movie. It wasn't until 1989 that one of the members, her name was Gabrielle Lavallee, we stand. She had been brutally mutilated by this guy on more than one occasion. However, she managed to escape in 1989. And contacted the police. This guy was given a life sentence, but he was killed in 2011 by his cellmate. Good. However, a portion of his followers never recovered from their abuse and have continued to obey his teachings. So this shit is going on. Both of these terrible fucking cults are still going on. Granted, the original leaders are no longer there. So maybe they're not going on in their original form. Hopefully they're not. Also, you'd hope they're not, because police would catch them. Sometimes police suck. I don't know. But you know, you hope they're not like they used to be. Like kind of like how the KKK claims to have had like a complete like revamp of their image, and nowadays they're actually just like a white pride like organization, kind of like that. Like deep down, you know that like they're probably still doing the same shit like behind closed doors.
Yeah, they are.
So like it's kind of like that. Like you like the public image of these cults is like, we sucked, but we're good now. But I mean, I don't know if I buy that.
No, if they were actually good, they would just end ties altogether.
Yeah. Agreed. So that's what I fucking have, dude. Just some awful shit. Cults are crazy. Like in all seriousness, nothing to fuck with. Like seriously, just like, I mean, not like we didn't already know that, but there are a lot of people that become lured into these things, and so they must have some kind of appeal. But you know, if anyone's listening to this that just thinking of joining a cult, just this is nothing to fuck with.
It's like, before you join a cult, ask yourself, can I get a cat? Can I get a dog? Can I join maybe a book club at my local library? Maybe I want to try being gluten-free because that community is thriving. You know, just think about your options before you jump straight to child murder.
Yeah, like there are like at least 5 dozen subreddits that you can like meet people from in real life before you're like, you know what, none of these have worked, it's cult time. Yeah.
And I know people in cults, like that's not a joke, and yeah, it's not a pretty sight. And like I said, I think the reason is if you're really lost and you have no idea what you're doing with life, and I think people are especially vulnerable right now when they're young.
Oh my god, are we talking about
easy.
Are we talking about the B word?
I think so.
The B word in your town?
Oh no, we're not.
Okay,
no, I mean that definitely counts too, but no. I am talking about something elsewhere. Anyway, that was fascinating. Do we have any thoughts on I guess because our normal content is different. Like we don't talk about
it's true not crime paranormal. This is just scary because it's gross and sad.
So I guess here's my question. What do you think is worse, human beings or the paranormal?
Human beings, without a doubt. Like, I have heard of demons doing lesser shit than this guy. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather get stabbed. Well, not me personally, knock on wood, but I'd rather get stabbed like 20 times by Arnche and Johnson's fucking like body demon than get like nailed to a wall. What the fuck? Like, because he like.
Yeah,
he's not even killing them. It's just straight up torture. Like, I'd rather just die. Well, I mean, I wouldn't. I'd rather live to 1,000. But but yeah, this is just awful. Also, for clarification, the B word is Britney. So no one.
You know what I was thinking about when you said that you would rather live to 1,000? Have you seen that episode of Doctor Who where this like human is just like a thin veil of skin with a face on it because she's that old?
Yeah, she's like, moisturize me. Oh yeah, I forget her name.
That's gonna be you.
No, that's gonna be Cher in 10 years, dude.
Oh my god, just 10 years.
She's already like 150.
Okay. All right. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
This case is very okay. So basically, I've been following this case for a very long time because this is NXIVM. Y'all know. Y'all better know.
I've heard of this.
You have? Okay. So the reason I heard about this and the reason I care about this, obviously, is because my ass grew up watching Smallville. And I, shit you not, I actually like named my cat Chloe, and then we found out it was a boy, so we changed his name. But the point is, I named a cat after this chick who is now being prosecuted. So that's something interesting. So what is NXIVM? This is a 20-year-old group, we're going to say group, based in Albany, New York, with affiliates in Canada and Mexico. They present themselves as a multi-level marketing company, which MLMs learn to know the acronym because they will try to recruit you for jobs and stuff. And
a lot of MLMs are just straight up cults, dude. Like, legit. Yeah,
it's just don't play with it. It's better to just like work for like a fast food place if you really need a job, like, honestly.
Okay, super duper quick aside, because I don't want to keep interrupting. I once got offered a job at something that I later realized was an MLM. So, and I was actually surprised at how fast I got it, but it makes total sense because they'll hire anyone. Anyway.
Yeah. I interviewed for one, and like I asked him several times, I'm like, is this real? Because like I don't really give a fuck, like I'm just that type of person. And he was like, he just like wouldn't answer me. He'd like work around it. I'm like, okay, so this isn't real.
What the
fuck? So in this article by Kara Bettish, this is basically found on like a cult investigation website. I'll just give you kind of the summary of what she put down. So NXIVM was led by a man named Keith Raniere. Raniere created a society with a NXIVM called DOS, and DOS is an acronym for the Latin Dominus Obsequious Sorponium? I'm not sure how you say that. The point is...
Serponi?
Maybe. The point is it translates loosely to dominant over submissive, and they would refer to it as Lord/Master of obedient female companions.
Okay.
So that's something to like ask around if you're thinking about joining a cult. Like, hey, like what are your weird like principles here? I wouldn't join that. Okay, so this was founded in 1998 by Raniere and a friend, Nancy Salzman. Who was Nancy Salzman? She was a nurse. She was trained in hypnotism and neuro-linguistic programming. So already we have this nice little bowl of soup boiling on the stove, and we got Raniere, who's basically fucking con artist, basically. I mean, you can't really prove that, but he did try to start like another company kind of early on before NXIVM that was like totally shut down, and he was sued for it and stuff. So these two crazies are like, hey, let's do something a little different. So they open NXIVM and they start offering executive success programs. And these are marketed as self-help. If you want to improve yourself as a person, see success in your career, if you want to experience joy. And honestly, those are all things we all want. So why wouldn't you, you know? It's just a class, right? Like nothing bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
And before I kind of get deeper, I want to say, like, as I'm talking about this does bear a lot of similarities to Scientology. So yeah, just keep an eye out for that.
Okay.
Not that Scientology's a cult. Oh no.
Not at all.
So, among the weird things that would happen in this organization, Raniere had his followers refer to him as Vanguard, and he got this from a video game of the same name that he had played as a child, in which destruction of one's enemies increased one's own power. So,
okay.
Is your red light blaring?
Yeah.
All right, so basically, some of the weird things that would go on training in NXIVM, including the manual, was subject to NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. You had to sign NDAs that you weren't going to share anything from the manual and talk about the training. They had something called rational inquiry, which basically just means you sit down with someone and they ask you questions, which sounds extremely similar to auditing in Scientology.
But by the way, quick aside, NDAs are so stupid. Like, you can just anonymously post it on the internet, and if it blows up, like, everyone will know whatever secret the NDA provider was trying to keep secret. Just don't do shady shit. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, an NDA is kind of like a what the fuck is it called? A restriction order. Like when you don't want someone to
Restraining?
a restraining order. Sorry. It's a piece of paper. Like you still have to keep your eyes open. So if you're someone who has a secret and give someone an NDA so they don't tell it, like. There's ways. I mean, there's ways.
Yeah. Okay, so when you're recruited in, members are meant to supply denigrating info about themselves to demonstrate commitment. Yeah, so that's definitely something.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I need to say it at this point.
Yeah.
Cult investigator Rick Allen Ross, he commissioned the publication of part of NXIVM's manual. He got this from someone who had left NXIVM, and they obviously didn't follow through with that NDA by supplying it. He described it as expensive brainwashing. And NXIVM ended up suing the Ross Institute, but the cases were eventually dismissed. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? He's a cult investigator. He's investigating your organization.
Right.
So this is kind of how, like, I guess my question normally is, like, how do these things get so big? Because this one's not, like, huge, but it was doing well enough that, like, I don't know, a lot of people were in it, you know?
Uh-huh.
So the answer to that is lots and lots of money. But where do you get the money? Stupid rich people. So there's a corporation called Seagrams. This is in Canada, and they basically create whiskey. And the two heiresses of Seagrams, the daughters of the man who runs it, Clara and Sarah Bronfman, they were basically recruited into it, and they donated $2 million to NXIVM.
Right.
$2 million. Their father, Edgar Bronfman, he took this to Forbes and he called it a cult, and he said that he hadn't spoken to his daughters in months. This was his way of kind of contacting them and being like, please don't. And if you're Harris, I don't know how you say that.
Harris.
If you have like a lot of money to give away, like, because it's not yours, you didn't earn it, you don't know what to do with it, you have so much fucking money. Mm-hmm. Of course, like, some attractive guy offers you like these programs to make you feel good about yourself, and you're like, oh, this is such a good cause. Oh my god, they milked the crap out of them. They got so much money. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in 2008, the Bronfman sisters asked favors through people that their father had known to get investigators to open cases into NXIVM's many critics. And honestly, there weren't that many, maybe just a few. But anyone who spoke out against it or was saying, like, this is a cult or anything like that, like, they would try and get people to, like, sue them. So that's basically just another way of silencing people and preventing them from understanding what's actually happening. But, I mean, shit. And this is going to get dark, I promise. This is so fascinating to me. So, how did Allison Mack from Smallville get involved in this? Well, Kristen Crook.
Yeah, I want to know.
Kristen Crook, beautiful girl. Oh my god, we all love her. I don't know how deeply Kristen was involved in this, and I'm not going to say anything about it because I'm sure her ass will be on me. But she was, quote, involved with NXIVM in 2006. And Nancy Salzman and her daughter Lauren went to basically Canada, where they filmed Smallville, to recruit Allison Mack. And they did. Kristen's no longer part of the cult. I think cult organization. I think she left maybe like a little bit after Allison had joined for some reason. But I mean, I think that's what she said. And supposedly she didn't know about any of the weird stuff. But so Mack was on a podcast. And this was called Living the Dream by Phil Morris. And she said that after Smallville kind of landing the successful role, the show did go on for 10 years, and like she was like 25 near the end. She said that she was experiencing like a quarter life crisis. And she said, I started to see what I was missing that I thought I would get from success was a joyful inner world. Like, that's what she said about NXIVM and joining it. So on the outside, like, she was presenting like big smiles and this will change your life and all this stuff. But we obviously know now that it has a darker side to it, which is why you just can't, like, I don't know, you just gotta be smart, you gotta be like unawares, because I remember being on Tumblr when I was like 15, I think that's when I joined, and all these people that go to cons, and like I do it too, and girls like my age would like meet Allison Mack and like get their photo taken with her, and I'm just like, now looking back, I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, what if she was like recruiting because they did want girls, you know, and there were underage girls, and like that's just so wild. But I guess there's no way to know. So basically, how does this cult work?
That, by the way, that reminds me of a famous like high profile Mexican celebrity case. Long story short, there's this big artist. She's still like doing music now. Her name is Gloria Trevi, and in the early 2000s, she's very big. In the early 2000s, she was still big back then. Apparently, she was married to this TV producer who ran a kind of like prostitution ring ish. And she allegedly recruited young girls to quote unquote have him like produce music for them. They wanted to be singers or whatever, but in reality, like that wouldn't happen. And she claims that's not how things happen, and she never actually recruited girls, and it was all the guy that did it. And she went to jail for some time, but now is out and is a huge artist. So if you ever want to look that up, interesting shit. Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. So basically, I'm just gonna get into like the weird about stuff. Rank in NXIVM classes was signified by colored sashes, which, can you get more Girl Scouts? Like, oh my god, guys. Jesus. They had a 12-point mission statement where they pledged to purge themselves of all parasite and envy-based habits, to enroll others, Christianity, anyone? And to ethically control as much of the money, wealth, and resources of the world as possible. Can you imagine joining a cult where they're like, yeah, we just want to control all the money in the entire world, if possible?
I mean, one, yeah, I can imagine, but two, man, that's so hard. Like, even the concept of ethics itself, like, ethical according to who? Like,
okay. Yeah, exactly. It's like, why do you think that you are qualified to do this? Because you know. Just know. You're not. Yeah. So, intensive classes there that could last up to 12 hours a day. They had normal ones too, but the intensive ones, they were 12 hours a day for up to 16 days. They would cost as high as $7,500. No, I'm not paying for that. But you can see how they targeted rich people who were kind of like sad and empty because they have all their money, but they don't know who they are, you know? It's like, whatever.
That's very deep, Shannon. Thank you.
I know, me. I'm talking like, whatever, it's fine. So this is really
Paris
interesting.
Hilton has entered the chat, okay?
Oh my god, don't you talk about Paris that way. I'm actually a big fan. How dare you? She's doing her DJ work. She is earning her income, sort of.
You're right.
Not really. It's okay. So they would call anyone who left NXIVM suppressives, and if y'all are familiar with Scientology, Scientologists call people who left them suppressed persons.
Yeah, it's I've heard that. Yeah.
Keith, are you just stealing everything from Scientology? What's happening?
It's a weird Scientology Girl Scout hybrid.
Yeah, exactly. So people who had left were said to have undergone the fall, and they were referred to as Luciferians. And that just makes me laugh because, like, what? We're bringing Satan into this? Satanists are doing better than you. Once a week during the week of Vanguard's birthday, they would have Vanguard Week to celebrate Keith. Which just... why? Okay. I'm just talking about the tedious nonsense before I get into the really horrifying, because it is very funny to me.
Yeah.
So according to a complaint by a former member, or, you know, a Luciferian, a medical doctor performed an experiment on her that involved recording her EEG responses while viewing footage of people getting murdered. And the doctor, he faced 24 conduct charges, which is well suited, I think.
Yeah.
So what did they do? I think that's kind of what we all want to know. And it's not good, but it's certainly less crazy than what you talked about. So I guess we're ending on a happier note, sort of. Not really. So DOS. DOS is at the center of all of this. This is the secret sisterhood, the slave fucking nonsense. So basically, if you were brought into this, like, supposedly better inner circle, then you would be agreeing to be referred to as a slave. You would be branded with the initials of Rainier and sometimes Mac. You would receive corporal punishment from your masters, and you would have to provide nude photos and other damning information of yourself as collateral so that you won't leave, basically.
Is this just like BDSM for people who are really into it? Like, they can't get a kick out of leather and cuffs anymore?
No, I mean, maybe for the people who were harming them, like Allison Mack and Rainier, I think maybe they got that out of it. But for the other people, it was just like cult brainwashing. They thought they had to do it. And a lot of these girls were really young and they didn't know any better and they wanted out, but they couldn't get out because of the collateral. So, like, that's kind of why the charges are sex trafficking, because they were literally, like, taking girls away from their family and not letting them speak to them and not telling them what was happening to them. They were torturing them, basically. Like, even though it was all hypersexual, it wasn't necessarily consent. Like, that's kind of what's happening. Right. So, an actress named Sarah Edmondson, she left the cult after seeing, well, basically they invited her to join DOS. So she sees what's happening. She sees people blindfolded, nude, and held down by Mac and other women and being branded with a cauterizing pin. And she was like, peace out, motherfuckers. And she went to the press and, like, talked about all this several times. All right, and then she also pointed out that the collateral, it could also just be money. So, like, you forfeited a couple grand if for some reason you missed the gym one day because they were obsessed with, like, you being thin to satisfy Keith. Yeah, and this girl named India Oxenberg, her mom actually wrote a book about her daughter being in this cult. She was starved less than 500 calories a day for over a year because, like, I guess she wasn't thin enough or something, and she was trapped in the cult, but now she's out. So, I mean,
Allison, I guess if all else fails, you want to be skinny, just join a fucking cult, right?
No. So Allison Mack signed a contract that that basically said, like, her children that she would have in the future would belong to Rainier, and all of her money and assets would belong to Rainier. Not even necessarily in her death, it was all his. She also admitted that she came up with the branding, and yeah, that's just, I basically can't watch Smallville anymore. Like, I just can't. Like, there's no way. The girls were forced into starvation diets so much that they lost their ability to have periods. They were told not to date because that got in the way of satisfying Keith's needs. And some of them were given abortions without their consent. There is, like, I think it was in an outer, like, part of NXIVM, in a different, like, not on the main one in Albany, but somewhere else, where they were forced to wear fake cow udders while men called them derogatory names. Yeah, that's just ridiculous. And
that's too much.
If nothing else got you out, when they strap fake cow udders to you, I think it's time to just throw in the towel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So one woman actually texted Rainier, and because she didn't know that the branding was his initial, she just knew that she was getting branded. And he texted her back, if it were Abraham Lincoln or Bill Gates' initials, no one would care. Like, what? I don't even want their initials on me. Are you kidding me? Freaking crazy. So,
whose initials do you want?
Beyonce. Just kidding.
Just a B.
Just a B. I'm gonna sneeze. Oh my god! I guess you can include that if you want. It's good content. So in March 2018, Rainier was arrested for sex trafficking, conspiracy to commit sex trafficking, and conspiracy to commit false labor. Mac was also arrested April 20th, 420, blaze it, 2018. Just kidding, don't blaze it. I don't do drugs, and neither should you. Claire Bronfman was also arrested, and get this, because this is what I was saying from the beginning. If you have money, you're not going to pay for shit, okay? Claire Bronfman posted $100 million bail.
Wow.
$100 million. Allison Max was $1 million, which is still fucking high.
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
Nancy Salzman and Lauren Salzman were also arrested, and another woman named Cassie Russell was arrested. All of these women, including Mac, pled guilty, basically. And guess what Keith did? He pled not guilty.
Of course.
So on June 19th, 2019, this was literally like a week ago, Keith was convicted in court. So, bye, bitch. Allison Mack's trial is going to be in September, and she's facing as high as 40 years, but realistically, it could probably be 3 to 5 if she cooperates, which is kind of insane because she was doing just as much as Rainier, basically. I mean, not to say that people can't change, but like, holy shit, can you?
Yeah.
Let's see. So Claire only has to do 21 to 27 months in prison, and she has to pay $6 million. Can you imagine being rich? Because wow.
Yeah, dude, that's a lot of dough.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's gonna do it. I mean,
yeah. So this is where it gets kind of, okay, I'm gonna do it. Dun dun dun. That wasn't that dark, but this is where it gets like that.
Got it.
So Allison Mack, she married Nicki Cline, who's an actress who was on Battlestar Galactica in 2017. And they haven't been able to prove this, or at least they haven't pressed charges for it, but it was supposedly to get around U.S. immigration laws because Nicki Cline was Canadian and she needed to be more involved in the cult by moving to New York. And so this is according to an article on Art Voice by Frank Perlotto. Frank is doing some good work. He has so much information. So in April of 2018, it was rumored that Nicki Cline is now leading DOS. And Claire Bronfman is now in charge of NXIVM as a whole. And in theory, according to this article, they're still proceeding with punishment, calorie cutting, paddling women, and Nicki supposedly wants a 60-second text response from her slaves that says "Ready M," M meaning master, and if they don't do it, they will be subject to punishment.
Wait, if they don't text within what, 60 seconds?
Yeah.
Of her being like, "I want you."
Yeah.
Okay, dang.
Yeah, and there's rumor.
What if I'm taking a shit? Like, what if I'm not ready?
You need to have your phone with you when you're doing that.
Okay. She just wants to text back. She doesn't actually want to do anything.
She wants you to text back so that then you can do something. But you need to text back.
Okay.
So their plan supposedly is to continue expanding NXIVM in places like Mexico and Central America.
We're good.
Yeah. So they're still at large, just like your two cults.
Yeah, no shit. That's the thing about this kind of shit, though. Like, it's not one person committing crazy things, but it's one person brainwashing a bunch of people. And even if the head dies, another head can form, and it can keep on living.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's what I had to talk about. Any thoughts?
It was fucking sad. Also, it was sad that these people had so much money and they're kind of just like, sure, I'll give this thing millions of dollars. Like,
yeah.
There's better things. I don't know.
Money doesn't fix your soul. It just provides you with baseline security, which is nice, but what else does it do?
But it does buy you chocolates and shoes, which can help fix your soul. So there's that.
Marie Kondo has entered the chat.
It can buy you Marie Kondo. Fuck.
Yeah, you're right.
Marie Fold. That's interesting. Well, I am glad your case wasn't as terrible as mine because yeah, mine were some gruesome shit. I mean, yours is still super sad though, and just I don't know. It's also more modern, and I don't know. I hate it. I hate how like just the conclusion of this whole episode. I think I just like hate the idea that someone could fall into something like this so easily. I just I don't know. I can't fathom that. But I guess you can. I don't know. And when by the time you're in it and you realize you feel like it's too late, and then yeah,
People just want to belong to something. They want their life to have purpose,
right.
and it doesn't really matter if you're causing violence to other people or if you're part of a sex cult. If you have that purpose fulfilled and you're being told that you're doing such a good job, people want that validation, you know?
Mm-hmm. On that note, Britney's out. So okay, hear me out. So I think I said this maybe in a recent episode, but she's no longer at a mental health facility. She's just at her home. She's chilling, uploading a bunch of videos of her lip syncing and also exercising to her own tracks, which I think is iconic. Like she'll post
Queen.
videos of her like doing like Pilates on the floor while Give Me More plays in the background. So that's one level of self love that I strive to have because I can't even hear myself like phone recordings. Like no. But anyway, she's doing that. She posted this video the other day because I guess people were like, "Oh, you're not posting your own shit. It's like your manager's trying to convince us that you're living a normal life, but in reality, they're controlling you." And she had to post this Instagram story that was like, "To all of you guys that think that I don't post my own videos, you're wrong. Yes, I do." And then she gave some like little proof. I don't remember what it was. Um, so yeah, that's the point that we are at now. Singer and
And then she
entertainer
hands
Britney
it over to her
Spears.
manager.
What? Come again? Come again? What?
And then she hands it to her manager and says, "Keep posting for me."
It's just like this is a timeline that we live in. Like that's how we feel like sometimes. It's just fucking bizarre. It's just great. It's like out of a movie.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being like a huge celebrity and well, one, you post the weird shit she posts on Instagram, which is just bizarre. But second, like they have to post something like, "Hey guys, I'm not being brainwashed and controlled by my corporate overlord. This is actually me, XOXO." Like that's just so crazy. Um,
I
yeah,
mean, did you watch that new episode of Black Mirror with Miley Cyrus? Because it was pretty good.
yeah, it was really good. I actually was watching it with David, and I told him something along the lines of, I actually got serious, and I was like, I mean, spoilers for those of you guys that haven't seen it. Miley Cyrus basically recounts her experience as a Disney child star, but like darker. And that's what she says too, by the way, that it has a lot of parallels with the real life, which I was surprised.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, when I was watching it, I was telling my boyfriend, I think that like the part where the Miley character is like super sad and depressed because no one cares about her and they just put her on medication. I was like, that kind of feels like Britney to me. Like, I feel like she had her breakdown and then all they cared about was like milking the cash cow. And they didn't actually give her time or like, I don't know, therapy or love or shit to like recover, and they just had her like pump out more albums, and you know what I mean, and just like kind of medicate her so she'd like just keep pumping them out.
Yeah.
That's really grim and kind of unsubstantiated, but I fucking believe it, so come for me. I don't care.
I just feel like it's all about money in the end. Like that's all people care about. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if that was the case.
Well, that's the thing. Like, that's not. I mean, everyone cares about money, but not everyone cares only about money. And I think the key, especially when you're a big person like a celebrity, is to surround yourself with those kind of people that care about money, because if they care about money, they're also going to care about your money and your finances, and that's good for you. But that they don't just care about money, that they remember
Yeah.
that you are a human being. Yeah, as long as you find people like that and you can surround yourself with them, I think you should be fine. I mean, there are celebrities out there that don't have horror stories like that. Like Hilary Duff never had a weird phase where she did drugs and shit.
As far as we know,
As far as
Disney could
we
be hiding
know.
it.
But like, yeah, I think that's what you need to do. So thank you guys for tuning in into Gossip Talk. We'll be talking more celebrities next episode. Everyone, if you have suggestions for next week's episode, please do let us know by DMing us at Talk Scary, or just drop us a mention in a tweet. We read everything you send us. Also, Shannon is leaving the podcast. No, I'm kidding. Can you imagine if I just like
I'd be like,
um,
fine, bye.
no. So suggestions for next week's episode, DM us. You can find the podcast on all podcast listening platforms. We are on Stitcher, Spotify, and Google Play, Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review, all that good stuff. Shannon, anything else?
Eat some good food. Not necessarily before bedtime, but I'm hungry and I'm thinking about food. And you know what? It feels like a day when you just gotta treat yourself to something good.
Also healthy if possible. I have never heard anything truer than the sentence, "Food is medicine." What you put into your body like affects you in more ways than one, and more ways than you think. Like literally things like your lethargy, like your skin, like all kinds of shit. This is a weird ass podcast.
You're right, though. I started limiting my sugar intake to less than 30 grams a day. So I probably have like 6 grams on a good day and like 30 on a bad day. And my skin is cleared up pretty good. So,
wow, glowing queen. We love that. Everyone, thank you for listening. Don't eat any meals before bedtime. Large ones, that is. The Mothman is still real in mine and all of our hearts. And we love you. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week. Good night.
bye bye.